When I was entertaining clients at the hotel, a colleague suddenly sent me a voice message. I didn't check the volume and just clicked it open. The passionate moans instantly blared through the restaurant, making everyone think I was a pervert for watching explicit videos in public so loudly. But only I felt a chill run through me. That was my wife's voice, and the man making her pant and cry faster in the recording was my best friend since childhood, Marcus, at the city's grandest hotel. I was sharing drinks and lively conversation with clients, celebrating another successful deal. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. Who would be sending me a text message at this hour? I picked up my phone and saw it was Alex, a colleague from the office. I opened the message, and it was a voice message. Mr. Ethan, are you available to talk right now? There's something I need to discuss with you, HM. I was about to reply when the call came through. After connecting, Alex's hesitant voice came through. Mr. Ethan, it's like this. I just went back to the office to grab something, and I think there's someone in your office. I frowned. Someone? I am with clients. Did a thief break in? No. Actually, it's... Alex seemed embarrassed, stuttering for a long time before saying, I just heard a woman yelling in there. My heart skipped a beat when I heard that. What kind of yelling? Alex stammered, I suppressed my unease and said, you must have heard wrong, right? It's the weekend. There shouldn't be anyone at the office. Besides, I am the only one with the key to my office. No one else can get in. At that moment, something suddenly occurred to me. There was a spare set of keys at home, and only my wife knew about them. I glanced around, lowering my voice. Besides, I am out eating with clients, and my wife is home with the child. You must be mistaken. Hearing me say this, Alex quickly said, I am sorry, Mr. Ethan, maybe I overthought it, but I still recorded a segment and sent it to your WhatsApp. Do you want to listen? I opened WhatsApp and indeed saw a 60-second voice message. Alex apologetically said, if I am wrong, just delete it. Pretend I never said anything. I apologize for disturbing you. Alex's attitude was sincere, but my heart sank further. Okay, I understand. With that, I hung up the phone. Being stirred up like that, my mind was a mess, compelled by something I couldn't explain. I clicked on the voice message. Millimeters. Ambiguous sounds suddenly came from my phone, and the clients and colleagues in the restaurant froze. I fumbled to press the mute button, but it was too late. Everyone around had already heard it. A little girl at the next table innocently asked her mother, what's that sound? The mother, looking annoyed, glared at me and vaguely replied, maybe someone's playing a game. Why would a game have sounds like that? The little girl wanted to press further, but was forcibly cut off by her mother. The child's innocence only highlighted my embarrassment. The clients and colleagues at my table pretended not to hear, but whispers from other tables in the restaurant rose and fell. People, these days, watching that kind of stuff while eating. No shame in public. That person looks like some company manager. How could someone like that get a position? No class at all. I heard those rich people play dirty, like sending their wives to other men. I felt like an outcast in the restaurant. Normally, if this happened, I'd be so mortified I'd run out the door, but at that moment, only a chilling emptiness remained in my heart. The woman's voice in the recording made me feel a chill down my spine. I quietly got up and walked to the restroom, after confirming no one was around. I played the recording again. Softer. Is so bad yes, right there. Harder. Such explicit sounds should have made me blush furiously. Instead, I felt as if a bucket of cold water had been dumped over me, trembling all over. That was my wife Sophia's voice. I'd stake my life on it. At home, she always said she wasn't interested in such things. Every time I wanted to be intimate, she'd say she was tired, or not in the mood. I thought she had a reserved nature, but it turned out she was only reserved towards me. Sophia and I met at a friend's wedding. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress, and her smile was gentle and captivating. No single man present at that time wasn't attracted to her, but she chose me, who was quite ordinary looking. She said she liked my steady and reliable character, and felt secure with me. Who would have thought a swan would fall for an ugly duckling? I was overjoyed. We dated for 3 months before getting married. Back then, my friends all said I was lucky to marry such a beautiful and gentle wife. The year after we got married, we had a daughter. Now shares in her second pregnancy, and says it might be a boy. Successful career, a fulfilling family life. I was still feeling smug, thinking I was a winner in life. However, This beautiful dream was mercilessly shattered by a recording. The man's ambiguous, flirtatious voice came through the earphones. That voice made me shiver. Because it was too familiar, I bit my lip hard, checking again and again, until I could no longer deceive myself. The man in the recording was clearly my most trusted friend, Marcus. This was too absurd. Marcus is my best friend. We've been inseparable since college. Sophia often talked about him too, saying he was generous and fiercely loyal to his friends. One was my best friend, the other my wife. I just couldn't understand it. How could they betray me? Did they? Every time I went on a business trip, they were in my office. All sorts of thoughts churned in my mind, and my head was spinning. I immediately ended the dinner with my clients, and drove back to the office. All the way, I was uneasy and restless, almost running a red light. When I arrived at the office, I went straight to my office. The leather sofa was spotless, and the desk was as tidy as ever. I also checked the restroom. Even the wastebasket was empty. On the surface, there wasn't a single trace. I suddenly felt disoriented. Was I being too sensitive? Could have heard wrong. Technology is so advanced now. AI voiceovers are very common. Perhaps it was a prank. Or a smear campaign by a rival company. Ethan, why are you working late on the weekend? A voice suddenly sounded behind me, startling me. I turned around and saw Marcus leaning against the doorframe, smiling at me. He was wearing a crisp suit, holding a travel mug, looking like he was working diligently. I collected myself and said, "Oh, I forgot to grab something, so I thought I'd check if anything was overlooked." I pretended to organize files, using the opportunity to avoid his probing gaze. The aroma of coffee drifted through the air. He casually placed a box of high-end pastries on the coffee table. I recognized the brand. It was the same one he usually gave to Ms. Eleanor. "Want to try some?" Ms. Eleanor specifically asked me to buy them. They are sold in limited quantities every day. Looking at his familiar manner, I increasingly wondered if I was overthinking things. He had always been so loyal and supportive to me. How could he betray me? I remembered when I first joined the office, he overcame all objections to make me manager. Over the years, we'd worked hard together, and he never acted like a boss. He always discussed work matters with me first. He always seriously considered my suggestions. He originally wanted me to join the board, but I politely declined, feeling I wasn't experienced enough. I told him I wanted to start from the ground up, and he fully supported my decision. That's how I was able to get to the manager position so quickly. Through the glass wall, I saw that the office was empty. My best friend values and trusts me so much, and yet I am doubting his character because of a recording. I truly am a bad friend. Thinking this, I took the pastry he offered. "Thanks, you're always looking out for me." He laughed heartily. "Why are you being so polite with me? If you weren't helping me oversee the office, I wouldn't be where I am today." His words were sincere and heartfelt. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe I really had overthought it. When I got home, Sophia was wearing silk pajamas, lounging on the sofa watching TV. Over the years of working, business dinners were inevitable, and I'd encountered many women throwing themselves at me. But I had always stayed true to myself, never doing anything to betray her. Working late until now, she must miss me too, right? I gently sat beside her, and put my arm around her shoulder, but as soon as I tried to be more intimate, she pushed me away, chiding, "Have you forgotten I am pregnant?" I smiled and said, "Didn't the doctor say everything was normal during your prenatal checkup last week?" "We could." Before I could finish, she impatiently cut me off. "Can you really trust what doctors say? What if something goes wrong? What are you thinking about all day? Why don't you think more about making more money to give us a better life?" With that, she didn't even spare me another glance, picked up her phone, and went upstairs. After she left, I looked at the water stain on the sofa, but didn't think much of it. I just assumed she had spilled water. I always felt that this pregnancy, she was more cautious and more nervous than when she was pregnant with our daughter. Could it really be a boy, as she said? Actually, for me, it didn't matter if it was a boy or a girl. As long as it was our child, I would cherish it as a treasure. But it was understandable for her to worry, so it was better to go along with her wishes. "All right, then I'll go to my home office to handle some work." I stood up, feeling a bit deflated. At that moment, the recording from the office echoed in my mind again. Her coldness towards me sharply contrasted with the passion in the recording. I felt a deep unease. "There's an urgent meeting at the office. I have to go back." I found a random excuse and left. Of course, there was no meeting at that time. I just needed to be alone. My car drove aimlessly, and before I knew it, I arrived at the Financial. There was an upscale club there, a place Marcus often took clients. Normally, I avoided such places, but tonight, I was compelled by something I couldn't explain to go inside. As soon as I entered the lobby, I ran into David, the club manager. "Mr. Ethan. What a rare sight, what brings you here today?" He smiled and greeted me, looking surprised. "I often met clients here, but I never stayed overnight, so they all said I was a gentleman." David looked behind me, alone. "Marcus isn't with you." I smiled. "I came on a whim, just to sit for a bit." "Oh, right," David said, as if remembering something. "I saw your wife dining here with Marcus the other day." My heart sank. "What? Mr. Ethan is truly busy and forgetful. Your wife and Marcus often come here now that she's pregnant. Marcus said you were busy, and asked him to help take care of your wife." "Speaking as a friend, Mr. Ethan, no matter how busy you are with work, you still need to prioritize your family," David said with a smile. "When did I ask Marcus to take care of Sophia?" I kept a poker face, but my mind was reeling. Come, let me buy you a few drinks." David enthusiastically pulled me inside, but my steps felt incredibly heavy. My tolerance for alcohol had always been poor, but that night, I drank a lot. The next morning, I returned home with a hangover headache. Just then, I heard voices downstairs. Looking through the window, Sophia was chatting with the building manager. The manager was playing with my daughter, smiling. "This child is so beautiful, her eyes are especially bright." Sophia looked proud. "Right? Everyone says so." The manager then said, "She doesn't look much like you, though. She must take after her father, right? I haven't met your husband yet. He must be a handsome man." Sophia clearly froze for a moment before forcing a smile. "Yes, she does resemble him, resemble me." No one had ever said that. Even my own mother said our daughter didn't resemble anyone in our family. Suddenly, a terrible thought surfaced. Could it be, my daughter is? My temples throbbed. Ding. The elevator door opened. I quickly sat back on the sofa, pretending to look at documents. Sophia pushed the stroller in, and I went over to pick up our daughter. Looking at my daughter's small face, I suddenly noticed that her eyebrows and eyes truly resembled Marcus. After went to the kitchen, I secretly snipped a strand of my daughter's hair. The next day at the office, when Marcus wasn't paying attention, I took a strand of his hair that had left on the sofa. After work, I went straight to a paternity test center. A week later, I stood at the entrance for a long time, holding the paternity test report. 3 years. I had raised someone else's child for 3 whole years for nothing. My hands trembled so much I couldn't hold the report steady. Why was all this happening? According to David's description and this paternity test, Marcus and Sophia had been involved for a long time. That recording was real. Sophia and Marcus had truly betrayed me. My insides were filled with instant rage. Marcus was my college best friend. His family background was average, but he was outgoing, and everyone in our dorm liked him. Those who knew him well knew he was good at networking and gets along with everyone. His greatest talent was charming older people. At every gathering, he always had endless success stories to tell. Not long after graduation, he used his glib tongue to meet a 70-year-old wealthy older woman. That was Eleanor, his current wife. Eleanor was wealthy, and simply gave Marcus a company. Now it was clear that his loyalty and special promotion were all fake. In reality, he wanted me to manage the office properly so he could have more time to sleep with my wife. To think that my wife, who had always seemed so devoted in front of me, had betrayed me. Just a while ago, she had righteously refused me, claiming it was for the child, but behind my back, she was already heavily pregnant, engaging in sordid activities with my best friend. Those moans still seemed to echo in my ears. My heart cut me deep. After a night of thinking, I decided to take terrible revenge on this despicable pair. Just one recording wasn't enough to make them pay. Even if I divorced Sophia, it would only benefit them. I wanted to utterly disgrace them. After purchasing surveillance equipment, I drove back to the office. As soon as I arrived, Marcus called me in for a talk. "Old buddy, this acquisition was a huge success. Eleanor is very pleased, and told me to give you a raise. In college, I was just a regular guy. It was Marcus who insisted on starting a business with me, and I'd always been grateful to him. Even after the company grew, The compensation he gave me wasn't particularly high, but I never complained, really. Thank you so much, I feigned surprise. Yeah, your monthly salary will increase by $2,000, you're core part of the office now. Marcus patted my shoulder, but inwardly, I was laughing. The office had over $100 million in profit last quarter, and he was fobbing me off with a mere $2,000. He added, actually, Ms. Eleanor only agreed to a $1,000 raise, but I insisted on giving you this much. Ha, he still wanted me to be eternally thankful. Even that old hag was wrapped around his finger. I forced a smile. Thank you, Marcus, for your support. I'll work hard. Marcus, pleased, nodded and exchanged a few pleasantries before leaving. After installing the surveillance equipment at the office, I hurried home. Sophia wasn't there. I took the opportunity to quickly set up the monitors. All the equipment was debugged. From that day on, I deliberately distanced myself from Sophia. Occasionally, she would coquettishly ask for intimacy, but I always found excuses to put her off. Before I knew the truth, I always felt very happy. Now, when I saw her, I just felt disgusted. I thought about moving to the guest room, but to avoid tipping her off, I endured and continued to sleep in the same bed with her. A month passed like this, and the office arranged for me to go to Chicago for a meeting. This was a signing ceremony with an important client. As soon as Sophia heard I was going on a business trip, she lit up and eagerly helped me pack my bags. Before, I would have been touched by her thoughtfulness. Now, I understood she was just impatient to get rid of me. It had been a whole month since she'd seen Marcus. Anyone could see through her intentions. She was already desperate to do their little workout routine with Marcus. Sure enough, before I even arrived in Chicago, Marcus sneaked into my house. Through the surveillance, I watched them being intimate in my bed with my own eyes. She had worried about harming the baby during pregnancy before, but now she was sitting on another man without a care in the world. Even though I was mentally prepared, seeing this scene still made me tremble with rage. Afterward, Marcus stroked Sophia's belly and asked, "Is it really a boy this time?" Sophia smiled and nodded. "I found the best doctor. There's no way it's wrong," Marcus proudly said. "Our son will definitely take after me. He'll be a ladies' man someday." Sophia giggled coyly in his arms. "Oh, you, I don't want our son to be like you." Then she put her arms around Marcus' neck and cooed, "When can you get rid of that old hag? You said you'd be together openly once we had a son." Marcus frowned. "Of course I'll keep my word, Eleanor. That old hag just knows how to check my accounts all day. If it weren't for her hundreds of millions, I would have run off a long time ago." As he spoke, he tried to be intimate again, but Sophia pushed him away. "No, you have to promise me first. When will you break it off with her completely?" Marcus kissed the tip of her nose. "Just wait a little longer. That old hag isn't well. I heard she was recently diagnosed with cancer. Once she dies, her fortune will be mine. That's more like it." Only then did Sophia lean back into his arms. Marcus suddenly asked, "By the way, Ethan has been taking frequent days off lately. Do you know what he's busy with?" Sophia scoffed. "Who knows? It has nothing to do with me anyway." Marcus was a bit worried. He rarely took days off before. "Do you think he's found out something?" Sophia sneered, "With that blockhead. If he really had that kind of ability, I'd think more highly of him." Marcus laughed loudly. "True, look at how foolish he is. I told him I'd give him a raise, and he was as happy as could be." Sophia wrapped her arms around Marcus' neck. "Enough about him. He's boring. Let's continue what we were doing." Millimeters. Watching this surveillance footage cut me to the core. I secretly vowed that I would make this despicable pair pay. A week later, I returned from Chicago, and Marcus called me into the office. "Ethan, what happened? Why did the deal fall through this time?" Marcus slumped on the leather sofa, his face grim. "Indeed, I had persuaded that major client in Chicago to withdraw." I awkwardly smiled. "Marcus, market competition is too fierce. The other party offered better terms." "Bullshit." Marcus slammed the desk. "Who dares to snatch business from us? Find out which company it is." I shook my head helplessly. "The client said there's a non-disclosure agreement and wouldn't reveal." Marcus looked at me coldly. "You've been taking frequent days off lately, and not putting your heart into work. If this deal had gone through, it would have been one thing, but now it seems you don't want to be a manager anymore, do you?" Back when the office was just starting, I pulled countless all-nighters. I virtually propped up the entire office myself. It had nothing to do with him, that useless leech who only knows how to flatter rich women. Now that I'd taken a few vacation days, he turned on me. Well, in his eyes, I was probably just a pawn, but it didn't matter. I didn't care about his petty affairs at all, because the new company that signed the deal was one I registered myself. Over the years, I had accumulated far more connections than him. While on leave, I had secretly laid the groundwork. I had been dealing with that client directly all along and had already built trust with him. I offered a slightly better price than the office, and he immediately switched to my company. Compared to my profits, the paltry salary Marcus gave was nothing more than pocket money, but he would never know any of this. I lowered my head, feigning guilt. I am sorry, Marcus. I'll work twice as hard next time. Too lazy to say more to him, I had an appointment with someone more important. In the opulent private rehabilitation center, Eleanor sat in a wheelchair, looking stern. Although she was over 70, she was well preserved, dressed in a designer suit, and had a commanding presence. Finding her wasn't easy. I had pulled many strings to find out her itinerary. Speak quickly, I have a treatment soon, she said impatiently. Are you here for chemotherapy? I probed. Eleanor narrowed her eyes. Did tell you. I sneered. That's right. But the method was quite unique. I showed her the surveillance video. In just over 10 seconds, Eleanor's expression changed from shock to fury. Her hands trembled so much she could barely hold her phone. The teacup was knocked to the floor. Animal. I actually raised such an ingrate. She gritted her teeth. If were there, she would probably have beaten him on the spot. I understand how you feel. That woman is my wife, and I just found out my daughter isn't even mine. Eleanor's eyes widened, signaling me to continue. I told her the whole story. It turned out Marcus was no successful young man at all. He was already deep in debt during the early stages of his startup. Eleanor had invested in his company because she was attracted to his looks. Not only did he have to accompany Eleanor, but he also had to manage the office, though the actual control was entirely in Eleanor's hands. Marcus and Sophia's relationship had begun much earlier. At that time, Sophia was already pregnant, and they started looking for a suitable sucker to take over. Finally, they chose me, honest and decent. That wedding was also designed by them, its purpose being for me to meet Sophia. Sophia married me with his child, and they continued their affair. The fairy tale of Prince, the fated encounter, it was all a scam. My marriage, from the very beginning, was a joke. Eleanor was decisive and efficient. Under her operations, Marcus' company rapidly declined. While my new company was thriving, Marcus used to be absent from the office for long periods, claiming to be meeting investors, but I knew he was at various upscale clubs, accompanying Eleanor and other wealthy older women. The company was a mess, and I supported it alone. Now, he finally knew to stay at the office, but even sitting in the office all day, he couldn't figure out the reason for the loss of business. He started to fly into a rage at employees. But with the paltry wages he offered, who would tolerate such abuse? One employee after another submitted their resignations, and the company became increasingly dysfunctional. Soon, they couldn't even pay salaries. People came downstairs every day to demand their paychecks, and Marcus had to sell his prized Porsche to cover his debts. Overwhelmed, he didn't even have time for dates anymore. This drove Sophia crazy. One late night, she thought I was asleep, and secretly slipped out of the house. As soon as she closed the door, I opened my eyes. I had put a tracker in her bag, so I knew her every move. Just like before, she used my spare key to enter the office, and I immediately notified Eleanor. Within 10 minutes, Eleanor arrived, bringing a team of people. A burly middle-aged man stepped forward. Eleanor spoke. My nephew, the deputy of the city police department. I'll follow his lead later. I nodded in understanding. The show was about to begin. When we broke down the door, the room was already filled with police officers. Marcus was naked on his knees, begging Eleanor for mercy. I feigned surprise. Marcus, is that you? He hung his head in shame. Sophia on the sofa covered her body with clothes. Trembling with fear, I took out my phone and posted this absurd scene online. Soon, someone forwarded it to the family group chat. The chat exploded instantly. Sophia's mother, who usually loved to brag about how outstanding her daughter was utterly humiliated this time. Everyone chimed in, utterly shaming Sophia's family. Overnight, Sophia was utterly disgraced. The next day when I got home, I immediately filed for divorce. Sophia looked incredulous, as if I had wronged her. Ethan, I know I am sorry, but Lily is your daughter after all. I sneered. my daughter. Even now, she was still putting on an act in front of me. I threw the paternity test report in her face, and her complexion instantly turned ashen. Sophia, you've disappointed me so much. You and Marcus conspired to trick me, making me raise someone else's child for 3 years, knowing she couldn't hide it anymore. She immediately changed her tune. Fine, if you want a divorce, then let's divorce. But you have to give me half of your assets. I laughed sarcastically. I suggest you check the law first. In this situation, you might even have to pay me. Sophia was so angry she couldn't speak. But she was helpless. After completing the divorce proceedings, she was still sarcastic. She pointed at my Volkswagen sedan. With your pathetic appearance, this is as good as it gets for you in this life. It'll be nothing more than a manager at most. Marcus can casually find a wealthy woman. I'd rather cry in his Porsche than sit in your crappy car. Hearing her say that, I only found it amusing. Porsche. Didn't Marcus tell you he sold his car to pay off debts? She froze. Impossible. Just then, my phone rang. I intentionally put it on speaker. Mr. Ethan, the Ferrari you ordered has arrived at the port. When would you like to pick it up? I slowly said, this afternoon. I'll go take a look later. All right, Mr. Ethan. We look forward to your visit. After hanging up, Sophia was frozen stiff. Ferrari. When did you? I shook the divorce papers. What does that have to do with you? From now on, you and I go our separate ways. Sophia stood rooted to the spot, as if a bucket of cold water had been dumped over her head. After resigning from my manager position, I rented an entire floor of an office building in the financial center and officially started my new company. Marcus' old clients flocked to me. Eleanor, seeking revenge for Marcus' betrayal, actively introduced her connections to me. In just a few months, my company entered a fast growth trajectory. That day, I had just finished a management meeting when I received a video from a former colleague. It turned out Sophia had gone to the office to cause a scene with Marcus. Eleanor happened to be there too. In the video, Marcus was on his knees, begging Eleanor for mercy, clinging to her wheelchair. Ms. Eleanor, I truly understand my mistake. Please give me another chance. Eleanor pointed at the hysterical Sophia and coldly said, either cut ties with this woman now, or your company will go bankrupt. This was the idea I had given Eleanor. Not only did I want Marcus to be utterly disgraced, but I also wanted him to lose everything. Marcus nodded repeatedly. I'll cut her off, right now. From now on, I'll never talk to her again. Just watch my performance. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by Sophia's scream. Marcus, you promised you'd be with me. Marcus turned and roared, shut the hell up. But became even more frantic, pointing at Eleanor and shouting, is an old hag with one foot in the grave more important than your son? Marcus flew into a rage. If you dare insult Ms. Eleanor one more time, I'll kill you. Sophia was struck by lightning, and tears instantly gushed down her face. Eleanor elegantly raised her teacup, a sarcastic smile playing on her lips. This smile completely shattered Sophia. She lunged at Eleanor like a madwoman. Marcus pushed her away. Ah! With a shriek, Sophia fell heavily to the ground. Blood instantly stained her dress. The baby. That's your baby. Sophia cried hysterically, her voice echoing throughout the office. The final result was Sophia's miscarriage, and Marcus was detained for assault. The company was left without a leader and quickly fell into paralysis. When was released, Eleanor immediately convened a board meeting and stripped him of all his positions. I heard he was begging on his knees for mercy, sobbing uncontrollably, but Eleanor didn't even spare him a glance. And so, Marcus transformed from a spirited and ambitious successful young man into a nobody with nothing. A few days ago, someone saw him at the subway station, disheveled and busking. Because of his criminal record, he couldn't even find the most ordinary job. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he was reduced to begging on the streets. As for Sophia, after her miscarriage, she had a complete mental breakdown. Her parents, fearing she would cause more trouble, sent her to a private rehabilitation center. She will likely spend the rest of her life in a hospital room. This is the fate of traitors.